What we do here is go back.
How's it going, everyone, and welcome to episode 37 of the Lost Media podcast. And today, yes, we talk about Clockman, the most elusive piece of lost media ever. Well, it's one of the most elusive pieces of lost media ever, and it's one of the biggest lost media searches that's ever gone down on the internet. This is a true rabbit hole. I have a lot of notes for this one because there is a long story as to how this was found, different people's recollections of it, different details being found in the search. It is insane. I should preface at the start by saying, in the days back when I used to do Lost Media specials on Sam's Movies, I was not happy when people suggested Clockman. The reason being was because it was suggested about 5 or 6 times every single comment section, maybe more sometimes. I'm not even exaggerating. It was just over-suggested to me, and I didn't know anything about Clockman yet. I didn't know about the search and what people had done with it and where they had actually put heaps of effort into finding it, the lengths people have gone to. I had no idea about any of that. I was just pissed off that several people were suggesting the same thing over and over and over, and I was getting the same comment all the time. So it just became a running joke with me and my friends who watch the channel, and just in general to do with my YouTube channel. Talk about Clockman. You talk about Clockman. There's even an old thumbnail of me reviewing comments, and the comment in the thumbnail is you talk about Clockman and me just looking angry. Or just looking depressed to get that comment again. But now that I've actually done research about Clockman, it is one of the most interesting searches for lost media I've ever come across. It's a fascinating piece of lost media that was eventually discovered. I did see when this was discovered back in 2017, I did have a little look at it and go, oh, it was discovered. Thank fuck. Now I don't have to talk about it. But I didn't actually realize how widespread it was and how many people wanted this to be found and how popular of an internet mystery this was. So let's go right from the beginning. And I'm going to discuss Commander Santa's original post and what he wrote. He started this whole thing on the internet by posting in a forum in 2012, "I'm looking for a particular animated short that terrified me as a child. I've been looking for it on and off for nearly 4 years. Maybe it doesn't exist. Maybe. Nobody should ever find it. Maybe no one should ever find it." Read that out brilliantly. The short I am looking for appeared during an old Nickelodeon show in the early to middle 1980s. The show was called Pinwheel. This short animation was terrifying as a child. The scene is still buried into my mind 28 years later. It's of a young boy sleeping in his bed. Above his bed is a ticking clock. All the lights in the room are off and it's very dark. Suddenly the clock begins to slow down and it's ticking, and eventually it stops on midnight. When the clock stops, a greenish-bluish man climbs out of the clock. The boy wakes up in time just to see this man dressed in black, grab him out of bed and kidnap him by carrying him through a window. The Clockman takes the boy on some kind of terrifying adventure and brings him back to his bed before sunrise. Excuse my shitty reading off of screen skills. That's how this whole thing blew up. And it's insane how quickly this became a thing. I mean, people dismissed it originally. He said he had the flu when he first saw Clockman as a young boy. So people thought, this might be just one of those fever dreams. You know, you're running a temperature, you're imagining things. Probably wasn't something you watched on TV. Maybe you're having a dream that you're watching something on TV. And some animated shorts were very similar from back in the day. As people did more research, they found out that the Clock Store from 1931 was quite similar in some ways. And also the Sandman from 1991 rather, was kind of an eerie and creepy sort of short. But also there was the Nutcracker Fantasy opening that really seemed like it was something very similar to what this guy was describing. And people were thinking, that's probably it, dude. That's probably what you're describing. Or you're lying. You're talking shit. And a lot of people didn't believe him and thought he was just, making up a story to get attention. But Commander Santa was a pretty respected member of this forum. People thought that he was not the kind of guy to talk shit and to make up a fake story. So people obviously dismissed it. They still dismissed it though, and a lot of people thought, dude, like, stop trying to get attention. However, Commander Santa was positive that it appeared on Pinwheel, the Sesame Street-like Nickelodeon show. Pinwheel was a show that aired obviously on Nickelodeon in the States from 1977 to 1990 and was quite similar in some ways, I guess, to Sesame Street. It was sort of their answer to Sesame Street. And Clockman was not the name of the short. It was actually... no one knew what the name of the short was, and Pinwheel itself had no home media release. So there was a lot of difficulties stopping the search for Clockman, a lot of roadblocks, I guess you can call it. But Commander Santa's thread got 800 comments within 24 hours, which is ridiculous. It's crazy. That is a lot in 24 hours for one little post to blow up like that. That's insane. And keep in mind, this is back in 2012. So this wasn't obviously a recent thing. And, the internet's buzzing, and this is kind of a private sort of thread on a random web page and forum. So I guess, that's pretty impressive. It's not like it's a YouTube upload of someone talking about it and it just gets 800 views within 24 hours. That's quite common. This is just, this properly blew up. And then 4chan, of course, got a hold of it, as they usually do. More specifically, the ex-paranormal person part of 4chan. And someone else responded and said, holy shit, I remember this short. And his memory is slightly different, though. The Clockman in his memory was green. And he also did some sort of Irish river dance, according to this guy. They're the only two differences, though. Everything else kind of matches up quite well. And Commander Santa confirmed, yeah, he's talking about the same thing I'm talking about. This is too similar, the way he's described it. He's not bullshitting. He's not talking about something that I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? He was talking about the same thing. And he said that one of us has probably misremembered some details, but we're on the same page here, and this is a real thing. And even still, people are just like, this is some creepypasta troll garbage. It's a bit of a troll, a bit of a gag, bit of a laugh. And Commander Santa, he was determined though. He wanted to find this short so badly, more badly than probably most things in his life at the time. That's what happens with lost media. I'm experienced a lot with my own lost media. You want this, you got to see it. It's number one priority, numero uno. Oh my God. I'm so glad this is a podcast and not a proper YouTube video. Press the dislike button immediately. So Commander Santa purchases the DVDs of Pinwheel online, and he gets the DVDs and searches through all of them. But no Clockman. He's gone through hours of this show, and there's nothing. I should keep in mind that Pinwheel, I think it's a segment on the show. Unless, no. Pinwheel is the show. Sorry, guys. I thought it was a segment on a show. Pinwheel is the show. And it is obviously quite forgotten to time because, as I said, I think it had no home media release. That's why bootleggers had to create their own DVDs of it and sell them online for decent enough prices. You see these with a lot of shows that have no home media release, but a lot of it has been saved and catalogued by VHS recordings or something. They'll just sell it online. People who know that they're not going to get in trouble because the show's so old. So we find out in an amazing breakthrough, this is still at the beginning of the search for Clockman, that it was actually first mentioned in 2004 by a guy named Michael W. Howe posting on a website called the Animation Nation. And all of a sudden, all the doubters, all the skeptics about Clockman start to think, holy shit, another person talking about this from 8 years ago. This might actually be real. We might have just shat on this dude and not actually given this a proper thought that it could be real. So it's happening. Clockman, guys, is happening. And he writes that a girl lost her little red shoes. So he asks, Yeah, so not a boy this time. It's changed from a little boy to a little girl who's lost her little red shoes. So she asks a local wizard for help who can reappear and disappear anywhere. This wizard, he helps her, but he tells her that she needs to tell her mum what's going on with him helping her. And the girl goes home and doesn't really tell her mum. And she's in hope that the wizard would just forget completely. And the music proceeds to get eerie, and the narrator says, "But the wizard did not forget." He then pops out of the girl's clock after reappearing and disappearing in areas of the house, and he grabs the little girl, Jesus Christ, and takes her away before demanding to know why she didn't tell her mum. Obviously, as I've said, this is Michael W. Howe's recollection of Clockman. And at the time, obviously in 2004, this post was just like kind of brushed aside. Like, okay, dude, like gets little to no attention. No one really cares about this post. But in retrospect, 8 years later, this is like the lake house. In 2012, it was seen as, a huge turning point in the search for Clockman. This is massive. Commander Santa's starting to get a bit more respect than he did initially. He's just like, he's walking into the office like as the chairman of the board now, not as the as a lonely office cubicle employee. He's starting to he's from his computer, but people are trying to they're trying to get a hold of him. And the search dies down though. Even though people have converted to thinking it's real, it does die down, and people do forget about it despite this massive breakthrough. I don't understand how the search dies down. It should, still stay crazy after this, but no. But Kite, the Aussie Lost Media Wiki founder, he's still obsessed. He's the ultimate lost media enthusiast, if you like. And, he's made a Lost Media Wiki page a couple years later. He's tried contacting Nickelodeon employees. He's back on track with this thing. And that infamous Lost Media Wiki page, I should point out, has those little crude animations kind of trying to describe what Clockman looked like, because something had to be made. And I remember going to this and thinking, what the is this shit? Because I had no idea what Clockman was, and all I had to go off was people's annoying comments. I was like, this is garbage. This is shithouse. I don't care about this. Knew nothing about it. Should have done my research first. That's not good. 2016... 17-year-old Sam was just being a bit of a shithead. 2017, I think it was, a long time ago. So no one contacts him after he made the Lost Media Wiki page and tries contacting old Nickelodeon employees. No one gets back to him. Pretty standard when you're looking for something that's lost. It's frustrating. And he then contacts Michael W. Howe for more info, and describes Michael W. Howe actually, helps out even more. He describes even more vivid details about it. The narrator, the animation style, the layout. So he adds more different, details to Clockman that weren't previously known. And he also states that he saw the show multiple times on Pinwheel as a young child when he was like 5 to 7 years old about. Around this time, Commander Santa kind of just banishes himself from the forums he was initially on and claims he will not return until Clockman is found. I have an explanation for this, my own opinion. It sounds ridiculous, Commander Santa doing this. Like, come on, dude, really? And it obviously makes it much tougher for Diekate, sorry if I'm saying his name wrong, to get in contact with him. So what happened here, in my opinion, is, guys, he's so obsessive with trying to find Clockman, and he wants to see it so badly that he's just like, oh no, this is driving me crazy. I've got to get this out of my head. I've got to forget about this and move on. So basically, he's just like, I'm done. Until it's found, I'm not going to have any interest in it. I have done this myself when looking for lost media, television show. I keep accidentally clicking this, that has been lost since 2006, for literally 17 years. It's been painful me trying to find it for the last 11 years. And I've just gotten to points in the search where I'm like, I don't want to even hear about this show anymore. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of trying to find this. And I think that's me trying to translate what's happening here. But Diekite eventually does get in contact with Commander Santa. And it's on Nintendo Age, which is a weird way of contacting him. He finds him. But after they talk for a little while, they don't uncover any new information. It's just a lot of what he said in the original post, and nothing's coming out of that. But Daikite contacts the Pinwheel creators this time. The original people who made the show, he's going all out for this. Michael Karp, one of the creators, and he gets back to Daikite and claims to have a vague recollection and memory of this short. And he believes it was on season 1 between 1980 and 1981. But he worked on from season 2 onwards. So it's just like, of course, it has to be this sort of roadblock in the search. But he directs him to contact the executive producer of Clockman and gives him his email address. And he forwards all the info onto her that he has about Clockman. And she responds and says, wow, I'm like super impressed with your research. You've gone all out with this. You're working very hard. But I have no idea what you're talking about, sadly. But she did mention someone who could be in contact with him. And she shouts out COE Films, COE Films, which is a very old organization where it distributed films. And for her to, have no information about it, but give this detail, she's one of the biggest links in finding this thing, or this is some of the most accurate information so far in the search. And by the end of the search, as we find out, we end up finding out that this is an incredibly important link. So yeah, she shares children's media organizations. Her name's Tippy Fortune, with Daikite, and emails of 3 people from the Clockman team, supposedly. One person doesn't reply, 2 people do, but as usual, they don't have any new info about Clockman. They've got no clue. And the other organizations she told them about, other children's media organizations, they don't have any new info either. So Daikite's like, oh shit. Well, I guess I'll just focus on COE Films. So after that disappointment, he keeps going, which is what I love about this. He does not quit. So he focuses in on COE Films, and he finds out the founder actually passed away in 2001 and tried to sell off the company, but was unsuccessful in selling off the company. It just eventually dissolved into nothing because it wasn't successful enough, I'm just guessing. And Bernice Coe, the founder, her daughter is contacted by Daikite, and she is just so enthusiastic about this. She really wants to help in any way she can. Not very familiar, but she's like, well, this is awesome how much work that's going into trying to find this thing that my mum supposedly distributed or, knew about. I would love to get this thing discovered because obviously connection to her family company, and also just likes her mum, being mentioned in a search that's so widespread by literally thousands of people. That's kind of special for her. So during the search, people kind of mixed up Clockman with the Red Shoes, which is another like nursery rhyme that's kind of similar from a very long time ago. And this just threw people off and, made the search longer and tougher and more confusing. I mean, I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but the search lasted 6 years. And the Red Shoes was a similar-ish story, not really. And people, obviously it's confused. It's fair enough that people got that confused. But a big difference is at the end of the nursery rhyme, the girl is suffering badly from getting her leg amputated, and she dies from this. And people believe that was removed for the Pinwheel Shorts airing so that it could be, okay for kids, and it could be put into 2 separate stories, which is just like, what the fuck? No. Very wrong. That's not correct. Fucking hell. And there was another story called The 7 O'Clock Man. That was a Canadian nursery rhyme that was also a bit of a false lead. A guy hides in kids' bedrooms and waits until they go to sleep. And if they don't go to sleep, he steals them. What the fuck, can I just say, is up with these old nursery rhymes? It was obviously not Clockman. That's not it. That's not correct. And I believe those, were the only two things that people really got it confused with. As well as, as I mentioned earlier, those shorts that people thought could be Clockman. And then we get to December 7, 2017. And one of the coolest things about Clockman is I was a lost media YouTuber during the search. One of the most frustrating things is I didn't do my fucking research and make a video about Clockman. I will admit it right here that I fucked up. Because I should have been involved actively in this search while it was happening as a lost media YouTuber back in the day. I mean, I didn't make many lost media videos, but I wasn't doing my due diligence to this. I wasn't, I was focused on more stuff like Johnny Quasar and things like that. I was more interested in stuff like that. So, what can you do? So Nitrate Nerd is a lost media wiki user, and he's just trying to help out. He's doing weird searches for Clockman, but what he's doing is he's searching on educational film databases. One that's called WorldCat, which is just a worldwide library catalog of different things that have been media based. And this is very smart. It's a very obscure way to look for Clockman. And it's really smart because he types up the wizard, and what comes up is a short titled Sally with a YouTube link attached. And he's gone through multiple pages, can I just say, of different listings of things. And this is what he comes across. And he's like, oh, we'll just see what this is. He probably clicked on a bunch of different things. And he watches the video and he's like, holy shit, this is everything that Michael W. Howe mentioned in his original 2004 post. This is the same thing. So it's Clockman. We found Clockman. It was a video on YouTube. It's not in English though, but a month later the English version is found. I mean, it doesn't take very long to find the English dub. It's pretty impressive. And it was found by an organization called I don't know what it's called. No, it's found by a group of people who go through a lot of television called AV Geeks, and they're a film preservation group. I just didn't have that in my notes right in front of me as I was up to that bit. So I got a little lost there. And Tommy Shadow, another lost media wiki user, is the guy who contacts these people. And they just so happen, of course they do, to have the English dub. So there you go, guys. It's just crazy. That's not it. It is, very similar, obviously, to Michael W. Howe's. I just made a weird noise in my mouth. His description of what Clockman he thought it was. The only difference is the red shoes are actually orange gloves. They're not red shoes. They're orange gloves. And because at the time Czechoslovakia, as it was formerly called, now the Czech Republic, was a communist nation, the filmmakers had no clue where their film was sold off to. They didn't get to own it because communism, guys. Gotta love fucking communism. And it's sold to the Learning Company of America in the late 70s or the early 80s, I presume. And they've dubbed it into English with that classic narrator's voice that was remembered in Michael C.W.'s posts. Michael W. Howe. How many times am I going to say that must be someone I've known from previous media, Michael C.W. And I'm just getting, I don't know how I'm saying that. And co-films. There you go. So that girl was 100% on the money with who it could have been. Genius. They picked up the film and it was confirmed to be broadcasted on Pinwheel on Nickelodeon. So that's all accurate. So Commander Sanders correct with Pinwheel. Everyone's correct with certain details about this. Commander Sanders done a great job with his original post. Michael W. Howe is correct. Everyone wins. And yeah. Clockman. That's it. And when you watch the short, it's kind of it's kind of a picture book style thing. It's not obviously moving animation. It's kind of frames of different animation cells of, the figures moving. It's designed to be told like a picture book on the screen, which is, was cost effective for the time and is actually quite cool. And you watch it back and it's like, this is lit. I love Clockman. This is awesome. And that was the longest Lost Media podcast I have done so far on the last day of doing these for 6 days. Thank you guys so much for watching. That is the story of Clockman. I am sorry it was such a long-winded, ridiculously over the top story. I'm sorry if I, mumbled and stumbled my way through it. This is a podcast. It is a lot different. I'm recording this all in one go. I've got obviously these notes here in front of me, but I apologize that this is a bit of a different Lost Media podcast. I'm looking at my notes a lot because I want to talk about every single detail, obviously, to do with Clockman. And I'll also, once again, I'll formally apologize, guys, for being a dickhead and not fucking respecting the Clockman, not respecting this piece of Lost Media and this long search, and just being like, fuck Clockman, just because everyone suggested it. And all those people that suggested it, fuck you. No. To all those people that suggested it, I actually realized why you suggested it en masse and why you guys wanted me to cover it way back in the day. We're talking 2018, 2017, 2016. And I appreciate those suggestions. I really, really do. That's it. Wow. Holy crap. What a massive Lost Media video. I hope you guys enjoyed. After many years of Clockman being talked about, me mentioning it on a podcast format. It's obviously quite different to the other videos about Clockman that are online. That's what I'm trying to do with this podcast. With all forms of Lost Media, I notice a lot of Lost Media videos are narration only, and making it a podcast and a continuous recording and just a discussion to the audience directly. I think it's a nice little format. I am going to make voiceover only videos. I'm not going to make a shit ton of them this year, but I am going to make a fair few. And I've got one that's a script that was written out for a collaboration I was meant to do with a quite big Lost Media YouTuber that I never ended up doing. So I might end up, reading that out myself because I still think it's quite a good script. And it's a topic I've already talked about. Might be one of those Lost Media Where Are They Now morphed into a proper video with narration and a real script and visuals over the top. So I don't know when that's going to come out. As I've said in recent podcasts, I'm taking a 6-day break. So that's what's happening. I don't want this to just become filler for the last 3 minutes. So I'm going to end it here. Thanks for watching episode 37 of the Lost Media podcast. I've got episode 38 coming out very soon today, after this one is posted. And yeah, I'll be back in 6 days time for a very special video. I gotta have a break from this channel because I've done 37 videos, and what will be 38 in a moment when I record the 38th in 19 days. So that's a good break. But until then, Pinwheel Clockman short. Peace out.